Hello lovely people. I never know how to start these videos. I'm playing around with different introductions and maybe even not having an introduction. I think I prefer an introduction, so we are gonna just keep playing around and see what we find. In my previous video, which was 5 ways to find your style, I discussed different tips on how to discover your style and center your mind in the right place to discover your style. And one of those tips was to study artists that you love, which leads me to this video in which I have decided to begin a series of videos in which I draw in the style of artists that I love in order to pick up some tips and tricks and eventually discover the things that I like about their styles and that I want to incorporate in my own personal style in the future. So this video is basically a Nick Sharratt appreciation video. I am going to be drawing in my approximation of his style, and then I'm going to create my own book cover for a fictional Jacqueline Wilson novel. So if you want to see what the end result is of all that, then keep watching. If you don't know who Nick Sharratt is, he is an author and illustrator best known for illustrating Jacqueline Wilson novels. And if you don't know who Dame Jacqueline Wilson is, then I am very sorry for your childhood. So I didn't know this, but Jacqueline Wilson published her first novel in 1969. So for, 60 years? That's not right. That can't be right. Wait, let me double check my maths. I'm an arts and fartsy person, not science. Okay, so that's 53 years. For 53 years, Jacqueline Wilson has been writing children's literature that has had a huge impact on generations. She's written over 100 books. No wonder she got an OBE. And I know that for me, when I was of the age of buying Jacqueline Wilson books, I wouldn't buy a Jacqueline Wilson book that wasn't illustrated by Nick Sharratt. It wasn't any kind of protest or anything, it just didn't feel like it was a Jacqueline Wilson book to me. Okay, so the internet tells me that Nick Sharratt illustrated his first Jacqueline Wilson book in 1991, and that was the story of Tracy Beaker, which is arguably Jacqueline Wilson's most popular novel. So it's no surprise that this was the book that kickstarted their publishing relationship. And then these two worked together for the next 30 years until 2020, when Nick wanted to take time away from illustrating Jacqueline Wilson books to pursue his own projects. So now their partnership has dissolved after 30 years, and as far as I can tell, Jacqueline Wilson hasn't published any other books post 2020, I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't find any books that she's published since 2020. And this is a woman who would often publish multiple books in one year, so she's a bit of a superwoman. So Nick's style it's fairly simple. He does dots for eyes and very simple noses that are always in profile, even when characters are facing to the front, and he does just one line for the mouth, unless a character is wearing lipstick or something, but for the most part there are no lips. And the nose is always the same, so there's nothing to differentiate the characters in terms of facial features. It's all about hairstyles and outfits. But in his illustrations, what you do see is the power of the eyebrows to depict emotions and affect emotions. And I think that one of the reasons that this illustration style appeals to middle grade, to young adult readers, that Jacqueline Wilson appeals to, is because it's a style that is fairly simple to mimic, and it looks deceptively simple. And maybe it is simple, maybe I just got too much in my brain when I was trying to mimic it, but I think there's more to it than meets the eye. And there are several illustrators that I like right now who do a similar style, and I'm thinking the likes of Cherie Miller, whose Instagram handle is @coily&cute, and I'll put her info in my description box if you want to go check out her style. But her style is similar to this, but she does actually draw black characters, which is helpful. I personally know that I like to draw eyes. I also like to draw lips. I like all my characters to have juicy lips, which you might know if you watched my Disney princess video, where I drew the Disney princesses as a kind of redemption for how I massacred them in my 100 Heads video. I also kind of like to draw noses, so this style is the complete opposite to the style that I like right now. But as I said in my last video, part of finding your style, I think it's about trying out different styles and seeing what works for you, and also trying styles that are complete opposite to what you think will work for you, just to see. And so I'm going to practice what I preach. So Jacqueline Wilson is of an older generation. She was publishing before people were thinking about representation and diversity in novels, and I think some of her newer novels might tackle some of the hot topics of today. But as far as I know, and my personal experience, I haven't read any Jacqueline Wilson novels that have any black characters in them. So correct me if I'm wrong, and if there are any of her new novels that have black characters in them, hit them up in the comments, I'd like to know. But I have never seen Nick Sharratt illustrate a black character in a Jacqueline Wilson novel. So that was something that I had to kind of take his style and inject some blackness into it, I guess. And so when I decided to create a fictional book cover to illustrate, I wanted it to tie in with the Jacqueline Wilson canon. And she is known for writing realistic books. Books that are steeped in realism, that tackle hard subjects but are simple and entertaining and good for young readers. So I was thinking about what book Jacqueline Wilson would write if she did have a black protagonist, and the thing that came up for me is Coconut. And now, Jacqueline Wilson, and dare I say, no white person should ever try and tackle this theme or write this book. This book needs to be written by a black person because there are lots of nuances to it, and it's not something you can write about without experiencing yourself. It's not something you can go and research or talk to people about. It's something that it needs to be experienced to write about. And so the idea of being called a coconut is that people are suggesting that you are black on the outside but white on the inside. And when people say this to you, I should say when white people say this to you, they generally think that they're complimenting you, and I am generalizing very broadly. And also when black people say this to you, they are generally insulting you. And what I wanted to do with the fictional main character is that I wanted to have her depicted in a way that is not fully stereotypically black, but also not stereotypically white either. So she's dressed in a way that is fairly punk rock, but she's wearing hoop earrings, and the cover features some like tribal print, but she's got an iPod an iPod. This book isn't published in the noughties. She's got an iPhone that is playing Taylor Swift, and she's knitting and has things that aren't typically associated with Black culture, but Black people have many varied interests, and race does not determine what music you're into, what hobbies you're into, despite what people may have said to the contrary. And drawing a fake book cover has been something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. I hope to be booked to design a real book cover. I hope to start the kind of symbiotic author-illustrator relationship that Nick Sharratt and Jacqueline Wilson had. I see more practice of this in my future, and it was fun to draw in a style that was different from my own. If you've enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it, and I love connecting with all of you online through this medium. Also, do let me know in the comments below which illustrator you'd like me to tackle next. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day, good evening, or good night. Goodbye.